Am I wrong? C_scarcity_9308 says, for telling my boyfriend why our conversations are stagnant. So my boyfriend 26 male and I 25 female have been together for 4 years. When we first got together we could speak for hours and never get bored. Of course, that is how any new relationship could be. I noticed a couple of months in that we didn't particularly have the same interests, which was fine. I had no issue, that's just how life is. Although, gradually through these past few years I've been biting my tongue more and more, since I feel as if I'm either too sensitive or an asshole. When we speak, and he brings up sports, or something medical, he is in a nursing program, I may not have any idea of what he is speaking about, but I'm into the conversation. We even laugh about the fact that I'm a complete novice in anything sports and medical. Sadly, I'm one of those people who get queasy when someone mentions they broke their arm. I show interest and try to learn about what he wants to converse about. The problem is, when I bring up what I'm interested in, which is politics or history, it's not met with the same reception. Most of the time it's just silence and the topic changes again. I don't always want to speak about what celebrity just got pregnant, who is in a toxic relationship, or the newest craze. It can be entertaining of course and amusing, but sometimes you just want to speak about other things. A couple of weeks ago, he was excited about what was going on in his program, and we had a great conversation about it. He asked me how my day was, and I just said I was watching the news about the debt ceiling, and sent him an article. He was at work and told me he will look at it afterwards. The next day we were relaxing and the article popped up in my mind, so I asked if he had read it and what he thought about it. He nodded, said yup, I read it. Trying to get more into it, I told him my opinion. He says okay, and changed the subject. It made me a little upset, since I show him interest, but I just brushed it off like normal. I always justify it by telling myself, well, not everyone is into politics or current events. Well, 2 nights ago it was normal. Numerous different conversations about the family and school came up. Later on, I mentioned the submarine, which of course led to me saying my opinion about news coverage. This then made a way for me to make a little joke along the lines that the upcoming election may be a little bit like a circus on both sides. My boyfriend became silent, which isn't new at this point. I continued saying, have you seen some of the candidates so far? He just questioned candidates and then proceeded to stare at me. Immediately, my mood switched, which he noticed, and he asked me if I had anything on my mind. I told him that I used to get sad, but now it's just annoyance, since I make an effort to show I care about what he tells me, but when I try to speak about my interests he can't say anything, because he either doesn't care, or probably just doesn't know about what is occurring. Which makes it hard, since I would love to speak about more topics other than sex or social media and not have a stagnant conversation. My boyfriend took offense and left the room. We haven't really spoken since then. So now I'm assuming I was probably being an asshole. I've been thinking maybe I spoke in an aggressive tone or sounded patronizing, where it could come across that he is an idiot, which is not what I'm implying. I would have to admit it, I love stimulating conversation topics. I just don't feel as if I get a chance to have that with my partner. So, Ranus 131 says, you aren't wrong for your feelings about this, but you are wrong for not discussing your frustrations about this. Building a relationship requires communication, and you haven't communicated your problem to him while simultaneously expecting him to magically change. Unfortunately, I doubt he will. He is unlikely to show any interest in the things you want to talk about. So you either need to accept that the conversations will always be about his interests and the few topics that are mutual, or you need to accept that this relationship won't work. Harley Bidness says, not wrong, the problem is him, not you. The scope of his interest in life is narrower than narrow. Your future with him is going to be more of the same. Less and less interest in anything outside the microscopic range of his interests. The difference between you is so great that the issue of continuing any sort of relationship with him should be addressed. Maybe you should find someone that is more equal intellectually to you. What you decide is your own business, but I hope that whatever it is leads to more happiness for you. Tootinafferline says, I don't think you're wrong for feeling frustrated, but I will be honest, as soon as you said politics, I kinda got it. Talking politics is exhausting a lot of the time, because American society right now is overwhelming and frustrating. Even if you agree on politics, it comes with a lot of heavy topics these days and strong opinions. And if you don't agree on things, maybe he shuts down, because he'd rather not get into an argument. I'm not saying that's the mature response, but a possible reason. You've been together for years, and are in your mid-20s. The only adult move here is to sit down with him, and have a direct conversation. Ask questions to understand why he won't engage in those conversations with you. Decide if his disinterest in your interests is something you can live with for the next 70-ish years. If not, you're young and there are guys out there who would be interested in having those convos. You'll be alright, girl. Contribution Darper84 says, you're supposed to be a part of his conversational life, but he's got no interest in reciprocating. Try to make sure he knows this, and that you expect parity. He probably won't be able to adapt until after the breakup, but at least his next partner might not have to deal with this. Totamilan 666 says, your feelings are valid, but it sounds like you were testing him instead of telling him how you feel. It also seems that you let the resentment build for a long time without telling him the exact issue. I think you need to communicate better. Southern_event_1068 says, talking politics is very different than talking about your day, your experiences, what's going on in your job, school, family, etc. Clearly, it is a subject he's unwilling to engage in, so you are going to have to decide if that will work for you long term. For Mouse Analysis 4359 says, you are not wrong. Good for you being a good straight communicator and telling him right then and there what was up. My mom would say that some people only use their head to keep the hat on. I've never seen the appeal either. Calypso K says, you're not wrong. It's alright to feel the way you do. However, politics is a touchy subject. Discussing anything political can create bigger issues between people. There's so many other things that can be discussed. You mentioned other topics. What are those other topics you enjoy? Silky304 says, there is a lot of overlap between medicine and sports vs history in politics. Maybe you could find a relevant podcast or documentary, watch/listen to and then discuss. Stuff like the history of East Germany and the doping at the Olympics or drive. Death. Carapapal says, neither of you has done anything wrong. You're just mismatched. You would both probably be happier with partners who share your interests. Just_thought 4557 says, so as I've gotten older, I've had to realize that not all of my friends are going to share all of my interests, and that even if they do, they may not have time to read an article or watch a video I send them, and that doesn't mean they don't love me, just that they have other things that are taking up their time. It's not my job to judge whether their choices are valid or not. Letting go of that control, because so many adults I know are too busy living life and not having enough time for themselves, and it isn't personal, was a huge help in my relationships. We do usually have a conversation about the fact that we have less time and different interests, and so we try to focus on what we have in common that we both enjoy talking about. Is your BF feeling overworked and doesn't have the mental energy to do anything but try to focus on comfort food style interests when he gets home? Something that will help him feel relaxed after juggling too many things and he won't have to think too hard? Also, the politics fatigue is super real right now. Even people who would have enjoyed talking politics before 2008 or 2016 really don't consume as much on current events these days and often avoid talking about it altogether because they feel helpless to change anything other than what's in their immediate day-to-day life. You should see if your BF has fatigue about these issues and why. It's also valid to want a partner that has more interests in common than you currently do, because that can be a deal breaker for a lot of people. But you won't resolve it unless you talk to him. Swanave99 says, not wrong, he's not the one for you. You trying to grow and learn more, he's stuck. Am I wrong? Dear Coconut 1743 says, am I wrong if I refuse to be my dad's power of attorney even though he's probably leaving me money in his will? When I was 2, my dad and my stepmom moved from where I live in the Midwest to an ocean tourist destination. Stepmom said so my dad could follow his dream of being a scuba instructor, which he did for a few years and quit. I've had strained relationship with them most of my life and have only met them a handful of times. My dad thinks if he pretends we have a good relationship, that will make it true, but it's not. Up until I hit 30 I basically tolerated him, and now I straight up don't like him. Has now an end-stage kidney failure and looking at palliative care facilities. My stepmom called me and said that a few years ago he put me as backup power of attorney, POA, but made her promise not to tell me BC though I'd say no if I knew. This palliative care place asked my phone number, so she only told me BC she thought it'd find out anyway. He has a long history of lying and withholding information to get me to do what he wants. One that stands out is, when I was 8 I was scared to go on an airplane alone, and he led me to believe my mom was coming on the plane with me to get me to agree to visit him. She had done that once. She has a friend that lives by him. Then he was openly disappointed that I cried the whole trip and didn't want to do anything. That's one example. There's many things like this. I told my stepmom to tell him that I don't want power of attorney BC. I don't know him well enough to know what kind of choices he would make in an emergency. She's also bugging me to come down there and see him one last time, even though I keep saying no. I'm scared of planes and my beloved pet rabbit is old and blind, so he can't go to the kennel anymore. She said doesn't want to hurt his feelings by saying I won't do it and doesn't want him to know she told me, so to think about it and let her know. She also said has leaving me money in his will, so I'm afraid I'll look like a big jerk if I will take money but not power. I'm sick of them and I'm sick of being manipulated. Am I wrong if I just ghost them both till after he passes and then still accept money if he really left me? Yoshi and Ames says, literally, any reason is enough. Any form of power of attorney is a huge responsibility. If you simply do not feel up to the task, that's fine. It's recommended even to say no. Then you get into situations like yours. It makes sense to say no. As his wife, your stepmother will legally be responsible for him and his end-of-life care. She's also closest to him. Location. It makes more sense to leave it to her. If they are married, she is his next of kin. If not, they should set up medical POA with her ASAP. There is a lot of paperwork with that. They may not be telling you the truth. I know with my grandmother's POA, my dad had to sign a ton of documents, and for his, a trust, I had to sign a ton of documents. Maybe it varies. But I don't think he's telling the truth, or he set you up for what he thinks he did. Redditrader_8 says, remember about the lie to get on the plane? I would assume that's what stepmom is doing about money in the will. It's a lie, a manipulation to get you to do what she wants. Eurogaloplant says, don't. OK_environment 2254 says, power of attorney is a big job. You can absolutely turn that down. Snowwoods 4839 says, you are the backup POA. That means as long as he passes before stepmom, you will not have to do anything. As far as him leaving you money, that is his choice, not to be used as a demand for a visit. Pragmatic Pomegranate says, you're not asking for his inheritance. His decision doesn't obligate you. You aren't wrong. Granted, he can disinherit you, but you're not wrong. Wild Painting 9353 says, my answer is unplug him. To any question I'm asked. NTA. Firm_pen_3754 says, I'm not comfortable making those decisions as I do not know his wishes. He should write down his wishes, so they are known, and file them with his palliative/hospice care, and any hospital that he may go to. I do not feel compelled to visit. I understand that this may upset the both of you, however, that is my final decision and I expect to be respected on it. Then stand your ground and don't go. If you change your mind before he passes, then go, but you don't have to. It's your decision, your chance to get anything off your chest. If you are just done, that's fine too. Do what's best for you. Ninja Panda 86 says, you're allowed to say no. There's a reason he's not giving you a choice, and it's because he knows you will say no. And it's a shitty maneuver to try to force it on you anyway. He basically wants to take away your choice. It is not your problem if he still leaves you money. Also, it's probably a lie anyways. Candid Quail 9927 says, his will is about his choices. You clearly do not have a relationship and should not be forced into doing anything you do not feel comfortable doing in this situation. If he really wants to see you and you want that, FaceTime him and give him the same energy back that he has put in as your father your whole life. Rian Off Bullets says, despite how you feel, if he's dying, you should see him. You could go your whole life regretting you didn't. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.